So hello and welcome to another session on NATA and JE. And today's lesson is going to be, or session is going to be on composition. So we're going to continue with composition. जैसे मैंने पिछले वाले सेशन में मैंने कहा था कि हम कॉम्पोजिशन के बारे में पढ़ेंगे, 2D और 3D कॉम्पोजिशन के क्वेश्चंस आते हैं नाटा और जेई में। तो आज के सेशन में हम इसी को कंटिन्यू रखेंगे। और आज आपने अगर टॉपिक देखा होगा तो आज का टॉपिक जैसे है प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ कॉम्पोजिशन, जिसके बारे में बहुत एक फॉर्मल इंट्रोडक्शन दिया था पिछली बार, लेकिन वो चीज़ कैसे अप्लाई होती है कॉम्पोजिशन में और कॉम्पोजिशन में और किस तरह के क्वेश्चंस पूछे जाते हैं, उसका भी आज एक मैं आपको डेमो दूंगा मैं। एंड लाइक ऑलवेज, सो इफ यू हैव एनी क्वेश्चंस आप चैट बॉक्स में लिख सकते हैं एंड आई ट्राई टू आंसर देम एज मेनी एज आई कैन ड्यूरिंग द सेशन ऑल्सो। इफ यू हैव एनी डाउट, सो आपको कुछ डेमो दे रहा हूँ मैं, तो आपको डेमो के दौरान भी during that demo also you can ask any question if you have any doubts about it. Okay, so so there are many compositions. So as I just prepare the drawing part, so in video so there are many compositions rules. So there is one elements of design and there's principles of design. So these are mostly used in arts, and it is arts and graphics design. So the question which are asked in NATA and JEE वो mostly related उससे से होता है, क्योंकि कई बार क्वेश्चंस आपके लोगो डिजाइन पे भी क्वेश्चंस आते हैं. So it is asked in B Arch and NATA and JEE एग्जाम में पूछा जाता है कि आपको रीडिजाइन किसी लोगो का कंपनी का हो सकता है, किसी स्पोर्ट्स के लिए हो सकता है, किसी ब्रांडिंग के लिए हो सकता है, कोई भी चीज़ के लिए आपको एक लोगो डिजाइन करना हो. तो अगर हम लोगो डिजाइन की हम जब बात करते हैं, then there are 2-3 things. That is, I hope I'm audible. I hope I'm audible here. So just confirm. Just can someone confirm that if I'm audible or not? Okay. So here, as I was mentioning, because 2D composition usually and graphic design, especially comes to logo design, we mostly think about lines and shapes, and a combination of line and shapes, we create certain pattern or texture, which becomes a visual language or design language for particular icons or particular graphics. तो वही चीज आज हम करने वाले हैं. एंड ऑल्सो आई एम गोइंग टू फॉलो दी प्रिंसिपल कॉम्पोजिशन, और मैं कुछ through demo I'll also explain not all the composition. It's not possible to cover all the rules of composition in one session, but I'll try to include some which are very commonly observed or commonly done. Okay, so we'll start. So just let me switch over to the camera. Okay. So if you see here, so I made some compositions, and these are like some very rough drawings. So पिछली बार मैंने एक लाइन ड्राइंग की बात की थी पिछली बार, और आज हम बात करेंगे शेप्स की. इस शेप्स का भी कॉम्पोजिशन क्या होता है. तो आई हैव टुक वन ऑफ द क्वेश्चंस, PYQ क्वेश्चंस. So the question it had said that, so I'll just write it down here. So you have to use equilateral triangles to make a interesting composition. एक 2D composition बनाना था, 2D composition, where we had to use equilateral triangles. You could resize them, you can scale them, you can overlap them. आपको freedom of रहता है, आप कैसे इसको आप draw कर सकते हो. Okay, and so here, so I was just making some rough layouts, okay, some designs. Okay, so just going through, and I did refer to some reference images and try to see, okay, how can you make an interesting composition using triangles. So the one which you see here is, so I arrange the triangles here. So we're going to do this one and maybe one of these two. Okay, I try to cover both of them and try to implement the principle of composition में देते हैं कि मैं कौन से रूल्स को फॉलो कर रहा हूँ और आप कैसे उस चीज को दूसरे शेप्स को लेके भी आप बना सकते हो. Okay, so we'll take a fresh page. Take a fresh page. So I'll keep it here or as my reference. Okay, so we're going to make this composition in a square box. So I'm going to use my pencil to make a square box. So let's. मैं कहाँ कहाँ लगा मैं रफली बना लेता हूँ. And you can always tilt the page, get a better orientation. And so we have a square and let's make it neat. I'll do is okay, so just make a decent square, just the height, we'll increase the height a little bit. And that's roughly like a square. If we don't want to spend too much time making perfect square. And so I'm going to make the same composition. So just let me sharpen the pencil in white. And so we're going to make some rough lines. I'm going to try to do all this freehand because freehand ही करना होता है. Okay, so what I'll do is first, and also I'm going to keep some gaps. You see there are some gaps here. Okay, so there are some gaps here. Okay, and there's I'll let some margins on the sides as well. So I'm going to keep this margin same across. So where others, so I'm going to leave it as white as a negative space. Okay, so that's another composition. Okay, so I'm just trying to guess. So which is the taking some margin. So just मैं roughly draw कर लेता हूँ. Maybe a few millimeters from the boundary. So don't worry, I'll darken it. So once it is completed, I'll darken it. Okay, and here also. I made a rough layout, and I see there is more gap here. We'll adjust it when we make the final drawing. Okay, and so what I want to do, so to keep the alignment as well, and follow the principles of composition as well. So what I'm going to do is that, so I'm going to find the true center of this box, accordingly which I'll arrange the. So what we do is that we'll just connect the diagonals. Okay. Just connect the diagonals. So we have the true center point here. So you can see there are small dot there. Okay. And so from this, using now, we already have this equilateral triangle, all these four sections. And I'm going to make a line which is passing through the center. Okay. Right. So now I have more triangles with me. more triangles with me. And what I'm going to do is that, so I'm also going to divide it vertically as well. अभी मैं बहुत रफ लाइंस बना रहा हूँ, इसको हम जब फाइनल करेंगे तो इसको हम we can just like correct the mistakes if there are any. Okay, so I see there are some mistakes in gaps and all, वो हम कर लेंगे उसको चीज को. Okay, so I'm looking at my design, what I've made, and so what is this? So okay, so we're going to further divide this another 4 squares which we have. So we're going to divide them in diagonally. So we already have one diagonal. So I'm going to use this. And this, like this. And we have like this. So it's like a diamond shape. So another square within square, which is rotated, which is like a diamond shape. Now with this, I'm going to complete the design which I have made, which I'm thinking. So, okay. So again here, so I'm going to keep a difference. I want to make a white positive and negative space here. So just looking at my design, so I'm just trying to guess, okay, what should be the distance between, okay, so a gap. Okay, let's do this. I'm just going to take a wild guess. I just want to keep it like this. Okay, so this approximately here. Same here. To just take repeat the same pattern. I'm just going to repeat this again here, this side, taking this as a guideline. And making this parallel, so you get the other distance. Considering this line as a center line, we're going to make it, and repeating the same process here. So mind you, it is just a rough drawing. So this is not my final finish. I'm just making a construction. Okay. So I made a final construction, the design which I want to go. Now it's time to just make a clean drawing. So obviously we're going to do freehand. Okay. So what I'm going to do is here is basically first see the what pattern I want to make, and in which also want to follow the principle of composition as well. Okay. So let's go here. Okay, so we'll have one triangle here, and let's make it. Okay, so we got one triangle. Let's make the other one. You see that I'm making all, so I have to make sure that this is symmetrical here as well. So maybe it comes somewhere here. Okay, so let's make the inner one, and accordingly we'll make the so I have to make sure that I have the same thickness over here also. So I'm trying to make it as accurate as possible. So correcting those mistakes as well also, which I made during when I was making the rough layout. So same here, we're going to repeat the same process here. Make sure that everything is symmetrical. Okay, so yes, we have one here as well. We just complete the triangle here. And then go to this side. Sure that here and just we're going to complete. Okay, so we have some patterns, some interesting composition. So here, what I'm going to do is basically, so there are two composition principles of composition I've made here. So one is the symmetry. So you see that, so this is my center line. So this is my symmetry and all the elements are symmetrical to each other. So this triangle is symmetrical to this one is symmetrical to this one is symmetrical to this one, and this one is symmetrical to this one. Okay, so this is the principle of symmetry and proportion as well. Scale. So we have equal proportions kind of thing about each triangle, and also there's a principle of like unity. So they are all unified. They united each other. Okay, and you can also say that this is like a focal point. So this is a focal point as well. So now what I'm going to do is basically going to color it. So now I want to do, okay, how do I want to color it? So sometimes they also have to color the composition as well. So I'm going to use only black and white. Okay, so I'm going to use only like a black and white one. And okay, so for this, I'm going to use a marker because otherwise pencil is going to take a lot of time, but we have to do with pencil. Okay, so just want to keep a rough sheet under it so that when the marker bleeds, it doesn't go onto the page. Okay, now I'm just saying, okay, where do I want to put the colors? Where I want to put the, now there's a principal composition called the contrast also. Okay, so here contrast is black and white space. So I want to make sure that, okay, like where do I want to, so I'm just like pondering कि मैं color composition कैसे रखूं. Okay, so I'm just thinking, okay, I'm just imagining in my mind. So what if I keep this two as black, so this as black, I leave it as white, this as black, this as black, and leave it as white. So what if I just making a mark? So I'll just put a cross here. Okay. So what I'm going to do is that, so on diagonally on the outskirts, I'm going to keep this as black. So where I put this cross marking each triangle, जो जिस triangle में मैंने डाला है, उसको मैं ऐसे black रखने वाला हूँ. Okay. So let's see in terms of color composition कैसे लगता है. So I'll just make the silhouette first and make sure that it is accurate as possible. So little bit went outside, no worries. Okay. So here it's important that I should draw within this. Be very careful that I do not cross that silhouette line. So we'll go on the opposite side. We'll just rotate the paper and we'll do this triangle. Same thing. We'll do color this as well. The key thing is that when you're filling this, shapes with colors or anything, key thing is to be, be very precise. That's the reason I made the silhouette boundary first. So that I know that where is the limit. If I start coloring, and I might go that beyond that as well. Okay. So we have something. Okay. Now I want these two triangles. I'm trying to be precise as much as I can. Freehand, it's very difficult. Make sure that okay, just going to fill it. And with the smaller nib, I can like fill this small white dot spaces. Okay, so we just go to the opposite side. Okay. Okay. So time to fill this also. So, it is acting up a little bit. Little bit. Okay, and so we have a composition. So of contrast and of symmetry. So you see like a very interesting problem. We can always uh, we can try out with different colors as well. So just to finish it, what I'll do, I'll just try to maybe like tighten the lines, try to match this contrast of this color as well. Okay. Try to just tighten it a bit. A bit more dark. Yes. Okay. We have this here, this, and so let's complete this here. Okay. So we have one composition complete, right? Okay. So here I follow the principle of contrast, black and white, symmetry. Okay, the symmetry this way and that way also. Okay, so you see I combined two, three principles of composition into making a 2D composition. Okay, now, so this is one thing, this is one way that you can do it. Okay, so we'll make one more. So this time what I'm going to do is, so this time I'm going to use elements of design and let's do some like a different shape. Let's do some different shape. Okay, and I'm going to just render with pencil so that like, you know, uh, I'm not sure like whether you're allowed to use marker in the, but this is just for the demo purpose. Okay. तो एक और कुछ एक बहुत interesting सा composition बनाते हैं using lines of different weights and circles of different sizes. Okay, तो यहाँ पर जल्दी से अपना एक वो बना लेते हैं स्क्वायर फिर से. Okay, so we have one more. Okay, now I'm going to use lines of different weights and circles of different sizes to okay, so question has been asked by a student that which GSM paper. Okay, so I use normal printing paper. So this is an A4 size printing paper. Okay, so this is an A4 printing paper. Okay, so nothing fancy. There's nothing fancy in here. Just a little bit of like a very like a I could use, I have actually another marker paper I could have used, but I think that is more expensive. So here is only about this demo of the drawing here. So can use any paper, but this is the cheapest one. Okay, much cheaper than much इसके ज़्यादा cheap आपका आता है आपका न्यूज प्रिंट. लेकिन न्यूज प्रिंट बहुत पतला होता है, तो इट हैज टेंडेंसी टू यू नो टू ब्रेक डाउन या फट सकता है जब आप ड्राइंग करोगे ज़्यादा प्रेशर डालोगे. So now getting back to the drawing. Okay, so I'm going to make a like a decorative kind of composition. Again, 2D होगा, 2D ही होगा, but we're going to use different kind of line weights. Okay, so I've already made a rough drawing of it. So I'm going to take that same reference and going to start with the rough sketch. Going to do freehand circles. I'm just randomly putting some line. I can always start with the circle also. So let's fill up these gaps. They are not maybe that perfect. The circles are not that perfect, but I'm trying to make the best I can. Very simple one, very simple one. Okay, so here you have to use line weight of different strength. Okay, so I'm going to add the thickness to the lines. So here it's very close. So just make it more smaller. Okay, so things like some maybe some uh, spherical shapes or some circular kind of shapes just hanging from the ceiling or something like that. Okay. So here we're going to use line weight. Okay, and so let's make it final. So, so as I'm making the final, I'm making some correction as well. Maybe just maybe like slightly make this circle smaller. Replace this as thin as possible. And make it more round. Okay. So let's fill it up. So it's not possible to fill all the gaps, white gaps, because in one of the previous session I mentioned why that happens, because we have this paper. The paper is not completely flat. It's not completely flat. So you have some imperfection, but that is only visible at the microscopic level. Okay. Same here. You can just go sideways, like cross hatching. But be mindful of in which direction you shade. You need to shade in that direction only, okay? And you have something like this. So the line of different weights, and circle just I've kept it as a white space. Okay. So these are the kind of, like composition you can do. Obviously, I can like make it more creative. This looks very, very simple. But just wanted to give you a demo of like, okay, so how you can take approach to making compositions, right? So because everything has to be made like freehand. So here in this drawing, I did not use any like any scale or ruler apart from making the box. Just I made only like freehand. Okay. So this is the way like you can approach and when you are making composition. So it can be combination of two shapes, can be only one shape. Okay, and you can like the triangle one, like so I was trying some like ideas here. So there's some ideas here as well. Okay, so this is one of the ideas I made. I can get so you can like make your own ideas as well and try to come up with some compositions as well. Okay. And so are there any questions? If there are any questions, you can just type it in the chat box. Okay. And you can just do in order to, there are a lot of, you find a lot of examples on Pinterest. So like if you search on a Pinterest, you find a lot of interesting composition, very creative composition as well. Okay. And you can try them, you can draw from observation, or you can just reinterpret them. So basically the idea which I saw these ideas on Pinterest only. The only thing is that I just reinterpreted them. I did not literally copy that, okay, that design. Okay, I just reinterpreted. So not necessarily uh, the layouting of the arrangement of triangles were in that same alignment. It is that just as I just changed the alignment. Okay, but the approach, but the principle of composition was the same. जो उस drawing में था वही मैंने follow किया. Which is बस मैंने अपना arrangement alignment मैंने अलग किया है चीज. Okay. So this is the thing that you can do. So try on your own. Try different kind of shapes, rectangle, circles, triangles, squares, and different. You just make a kind of combination. You can make a combination of both square like two different shape also. कभी questions आते हैं कि आपको square और circle से use करके आपको interesting composition बनाना है या कुछ visual principle दिखाना है. So for example, let's say that we have to make show depict balance using only uh, rectangular shapes or square shapes or and circle. So हम उसको कैसे कर सकते हैं? Okay. I'll just make a rough drawing idea. So when you say balance, okay. So let's make a circle. Okay, and maybe you can also like maybe tilt it, let's tilt it, let tilt it a little bit, it will be much more relatable. Okay. So we can even do like this also, showing balance. So because this is in size bigger than this circle, so obviously there will be more weight on this. So the balance is on this side, on this side. Okay. So very simple, very simple. Just using two shapes, rectangular shape and circle. Balance ऐसे हम दिखा सकते हैं. Okay. So you can try out different kind of composition kind of thing. आपको Pinterest में आपको दिख जाए, आपको बहुत सारे एग्जांपल दिख जाएंगे, आप उसको रीइंटरप्रेट कर सकते हैं. So I hope like you understood. So this is a very simple task, not something very complicated. So 2D कॉम्बिनेशन में इस तरह के ही क्वेश्चन आपके नाटा और जेई में पूछा जाता है. Okay. बस आपको यहाँ क्रिएटिविटी आपको करना है, आपको शेप्स ऐसी शेप्स आएंगे, बहुत कॉम्प्लेक्स शेप्स नहीं आएंगे. एंड इज देयर एनी क्वेश्चंस? Is there any questions? So you can type it in the chat box, and I hope that you understood the kind of like, okay, obviously these are very simple questions, and later on the later sessions, what we're going to do is going to do next week, we're going to do 3D composition. So 3D composition is more interesting and more difficult to come up with. And again, I'll do another composition, 3D composition, जिसमें भी फिर से आपको 3D volumes forms का पूछा जाता है, आपको दिया जाता है, and you have to make according some interesting composition. Again, you can overlap them, intersect them. You can use different scales and sizes of that volume. And for next week, so we're going to do 3D composition. Okay. And उसके बाद हम sessions में हम फिर कुछ questions solve करेंगे, जिस जो एक 2D और 3D composition में आता है, but not using geometric volumes or geometric shapes. So given a set of objects, जिससे आपको कुछ एक interesting composition बनाना है, तो हम ऐसा कुछ हम आने वाले sessions में करेंगे. Okay. So we will cover or those questions also which are asked in NATA and JEE. And I'm sure previous week आपने composition जो है एक आपने session हुआ होगा CRs के साथ में, where you have to draw some human figures and outdoor activity kind of thing. So तो उस तरह के भी questions आते हैं, तो आपको उसका भी demo मिल गया है. And आने वाले sessions में मैं और कुछ ऐसे sessions में cover up करूंगा जो आपको कॉम्पोजिशन हो गया या ड्राइंग पर्सपेक्टिव रिलेटेड चीजें होंगी, उससे भी आपको वो आपको हेल्प करेगा वो ड्रॉ करने के लिए. ओके, सो थैंक यू फॉर ज्वाइनिंग, एंड आई होप यू हैड लर्न समथिंग, एंड आई विल सी यू इन नेक्स्ट सेशन. ओके, सो बाय एंड गुड